Here we go. That's a nice shot. Here we go. Finally, the Living Numbers Podcast with your host, Tony Rambles. And I got my picks going on today. So, first off, Jason Tatum is a monster. Yes. Yeah. So he showed up and he showed out. He went crazy. Crazy on Saturday. And no, that was Sunday. That was Sunday. And he did his thing. I mean, this is his time to really show up and say, like, I belong here. I'm one of the best players in the league. And I think he is doing that. And he will continue to do that because he's been kind of knocking on that door for a while. And when you, I mean, the kind of shots that he was making yesterday was, they go, okay. I mean, he's been that talented. He's been one of those guys already. And he's proven it. But we all know to be one of the best, you got to beat the best, number one, and you got to do it in the playoffs. Got to do it in the playoffs, and he is doing that. So that game was amazing. Kyrie went off. He put up 39. That's what Kyrie does. You don't have to worry about Kyrie. Um, but people are just kind of, I mean, talking about what he did after the game. Like, honestly, I don't care. I'm not surprised because that's it's kind of Kyrie. He's not just gonna let people do whatever they want, talk to him however, and more power to him for sure. But that's he's his own person. He has to figure that part out. Also, let's do this. Yeah. So Kyrie's always going to show up and he's going to hoop, and that's not something that any of us have to worry about. KD is going to show up. He's going to hoop. But what about those other guys? Trying to get my mic right here. 1-1. My question is, what about those other guys? They are not. I mean, Bruce Brown is that who you counting on? I mean, maybe Lamarcus Aldridge plays. Okay. I mean, Seth Curry is good. He's going to play good offense, but I don't think he's somebody that you can really count on to carry you if KD or Kyrie is not having a great night. And because of how their team is constructed, they got it. They both got to have great nights. Um, because you just trust what those other guys on Boston are going to give you, especially defensively. Now, we know the Nets have no one that can really defend. I mean, Kevin Durant can defend, and yeah, I mean that's one. Okay, one. You got one. But after that, who's defending anybody? Exactly. So that's gonna be interesting to see. I've got Boston in 7. I just trust their guys a little bit more. Like, are you expecting Blake Griffin to come and save the day? No. Are you expecting Nicholas Claxton to step up and be some great player? No, not really. I hope not, because if you are going to be sadly mistaken. So I've got Boston in 7 games on that one. I think KD and Kyrie are going to go nuclear in some games, and there's not really going to be anything that anyone can do to stop them. Which, when you're a superstar, that's that's what happens. And Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how guys like Derek White play throughout the series. Jaylen Brown is going to have a obviously pivotal role. Um, Peyton Pritchard, I think, is going to see time, but Al Horford is going to kill them in the middle because they don't have anybody that's big enough. I mean, Claxton is there, but he's he ain't no Al Horford. So Tatum and Brown are going to step up. Marcus Smart's going to do his thing, and they'll have Al Horford, who's a stabilizing force on offense and defense. Grant Williams obviously is going to play a lot of minutes as well, and yeah, I just don't think I trust the role players more on the Celtics. Now we'll see what happens when they go home or go back to Brooklyn, and yeah, I got Celtics in 7 games. That's going to be a fun series. Now we have a game going on right now between the Raptors and the 76ers. 67-52 at halftime. I've got the 76ers. Now, I say it in 6 games because I think the Raptors are going to show up at home and they'll be able to maybe take some games, a game or two off the 76ers. James Harden will stink up the joint at some point because that's just who he is. I'm not the biggest James Harden fan. Shout out to my cousin Derek. He knows that. I'm sure he'll pop in here at some point. But yeah, James Harden, he's not going to show up when you need him. And the numbers will always look good. But if you watch the games, you're going to go, eh, eh. His engagement, those kind of things. Now, of course, first game 1. Let's see, what was the scores for game 1? Yeah, here we go. Game 1, James Harden played 40 minutes. He was 6 for 17, not great. 3 for 7 from 3. He had 14 assists, 5 rebounds. Now, if you go look, dang, 22, 14, and 5, that's pretty good. Yeah, it is. But you got to watch the games with him. You have to. He's always going to put up nice box scores. But that's not everything. Wolves and Grizzlies, staying 10 toes. Shout out to you. First comment. Wolves and Grizzlies, it's going to be knockdown drag out. That's going to be so exciting. In my picks from the beginning, I liked the Wolves against the Grizzlies in the play-in because I like the Wolves to beat the Clippers for that first game because I feel like they are just more talented. I knew the Clippers would be scrappy. That's who they are. That's how they play. But I liked Cat, which he laid an egg, but other guys stepped up. Ant-Man, he's stupid. He's crazy. He's literally a superhero out there at times when you just see him go at people with how strong he is and how athletic. He's going to be one of the best players in the league soon enough. But Wolves Grizzlies, I like the Grizzlies still. I feel like they're more ready for the moment. They have a guy in Ja who I never question. Is he going to make the right plays? Is his head going to be in the game? Is he going to be too emotional? I never have to ask those questions. You got to ask those questions about Cat because you saw him in the Clippers game. They took him out of the game. He was all in his head. He was fouling all over the place. It was kind of ridiculous. But I have the Grizzlies in 7 because, one, I trust their star more. John Morant is a superstar. He's here. And I trust their role players more because they have stepped up the entire season. The entire season they've stepped up. So, stand 10 toes. Appreciate that. Yeah, I like the Grizzlies in 7. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be his time to step up and make some noise and show that he could be a second guy behind John Morant because they need that number 2. Like right now they have Ja. He's awesome. They got role players, but you need a second guy. You need a second guy. So I think that Ja will carry them at least through the first round. And they'll be good. Desmond Bain, He's going to do some great things. Also, you got a guy like D'Anthony Melton who can spell him for a little while, who can spell Ja Morant, give him some minutes. And D'Anthony Melton plays great defense. He's a great distributor. They also guys steady guys like Kyle Anderson. Steven Adams has been there before. He's done it all as far as playoffs are concerned. So it'll be cool for him to go ahead and, I mean, at least make a nice run. I can't see the Grizzlies winning it. Um, yeah, yep, yep, true enough. And I think the Timberwolves, I don't trust them. They're too up and down as far as their emotions are concerned. And when you're like that, when you get down, you get way down. And when you get up, you get way up. You stand on top of the scorer's table, all that great stuff, which is cool to celebrate. Love celebrations. But you got to be able to lock in. And I think I just don't trust that team yet. Now, since we're in the West, 10 toes, I'm with you. Um, if the Grizzlies do win, and I believe they will, I believe they'd be playing the winner of Dallas, Utah. If I'm not mistaken. No. They play the Warriors, right? I'm already skipping the Warriors, right? They would play the winner of Denver, Golden State. Now, this is interesting because I like the Warriors to win this one in 6 games because I think Jokic is an MVP. He's going to show up. He's going to carry them to at least one. And I think in Denver, those guys will step up to get them another game. But you could obviously see that the Warriors, they were too much for Denver. Denver was overmatched. They couldn't keep up. But I think Jokic is that good. He's an MVP, and he may win another one. That's where the stars are pointing to. He may win another one. I think he'll get them to 6 games, but Golden State just has too much. They got Steph. Clay is figuring it out. I think this is a great team for them to go against because Clay doesn't have to guard anybody that's really, really good. He doesn't have to guard anybody that's really mixing it up over there on Denver because they don't have Jamal. They don't have Michael Porter Jr. So this is a very good series for Golden State to start off with, especially for Klay Thompson because he can really ease back into playoff basketball. He'll make shots. We know that. And they don't really have anybody over there that he can't get his shot against, whether it's on the perimeter or in the post. So Klay is going to do his thing. Jordan Poole is going to be able to ease into the playoffs as well, even though he came out with a bang. University of Michigan graduate, shout out. But those guys, especially getting their first playoff action, I think you'll see more Jonathan Kuminga as they get up a few games, more Moody. They got in garbage time, but they're going to overwhelm the Nuggets, I feel like, in majority of the series. Jokic is good enough. He's great enough to get them a game by himself, and then the other guys will show up for one game as well and win them a game. So I think that series goes 6. Steph Curry can ease back in. He only played, 20-something minutes the other night in game 1. So he can ease back in from his injury. It was the perfect series for them to get. Now, if they would have got somebody like pesky, like the Clippers, that's balls to the wall all the time, or if they would have got the Grizzlies in the first round, or if they would have had to get Luka in the first round, well, unfortunately, he's not playing. I could talk about that series next. That would have been a little bit more difficult, but this was the perfect series for Golden State to get into for the first round. So I would have Golden State going against the Memphis Grizzlies. Both of them, I think the Grizzlies will go 7 games. Super talented teams, a lot of great matchups where you got Ant-Man and Ja, they're both super athletic. You got a big and Jaren Jackson Jr., who's very good, stepping into his own defensively. And you got Cat, who's a monster on offense. I think those are great matchups. It'll make for great TV. But I got the Grizzlies winning in 7. And then I have the Warriors winning in 6 against the Nuggets. So now, let's shift up because I did mention Luka, who is one of my favorite players. And I was sold on him. I was sold on Luka when he bodied Kawhi for an entire playoff series. I mean, he was totally unstoppable. And if Porzingis would have just showed up a little bit, I think they would have beat that Clippers team. I think it was last year and 2 years ago. But if Luka's not playing, the Jazz are going to sweep this series. It's just not. I don't think it's going to be close if they don't have their guy. Because Donovan Mitchell is a superstar in the playoffs. Very, very good. And, I mean, Rudy will do his thing. And without Luka there to punish him, it's just going to be tough sledding. You think Poole isn't putting up 25 consistently? But you feel like the Warriors will have it in 4. Wow, that's so disrespectful to Jokic. Okay, 10 toes. I mean, I could see them ended it in 5. They looked very overwhelmed playing against them in that game 1. But I think Jokic will get them 1 for sure. And then those other guys will step up. And we'll see something from them. We'll see some grit, maybe in a closeout game, a 3-1 game. They'll come back and win a game 5 and then lose in game 6. But back to the Mavericks and Jazz. Donovan Mitchell's going to do his thing. He's that good. He's not like superstar. Like I don't put him on the level with, Kawhi and those guys, the best players that will kind of carry you. But I mean, he's making his case too. He makes his case every year in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell's very good. But if Luka doesn't play, this is going for maybe 5 because they're just going to be too good. Okay. For our last playoff series, we're going to go Suns Pelicans. This is going to be short and sweet. Pelicans don't have enough. I like Brandon Ingram. I like CJ McCollum. You know what? I think the Pelicans get 1 game. And I've been saying this all year. Phoenix is just too deep and too steady. They have no holes in their roster. There are no holes. Like they have point guard play. They have wings that can defend and score. They have bigs that can punish smaller players with Ayton, and they'll defend big guys. You don't have to take Ayton off the floor in the 4th quarter. He can stick with anybody on defense. They have too many just good players. You got Cam Johnson coming off the bench. You got Cam Payne coming off the bench as well. We saw what he can do in the playoffs. You got a guy like Shamit, who's good for maybe a game and a half, where you go, dang, we got 20 points from Shamit? Where'd that come from? They got guys like that can kind of show up for a game or 2 when you need them. So I think the Suns, they're just too good. They're too deep. They're too steady. There are no holes on that roster. They got the 2 superstars in Chris Paul and Devin Booker who can score in a variety of ways. They just fit the profile of a team that can go all the way. That's some foreshadowing there. I really like Phoenix. There are no holes. So I think Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, he shows up in the playoffs. I can't take that away from him. But there's just too much there. They'll have enough guys to throw at him to make it difficult. So I like Phoenix in not 6 games, in 5 games against the Pelicans. I think CJ and Brandon will go off and get you one. But that's going to be it. Yep, easy sweep if Luka's out for sure. No question, 10 toes. Easy. With sweeps, I always think of it like this. Like, guys will show some pride. They'll step up and they'll win a game, especially when it's elimination. The team that's up 3-0, they might get a little relaxed a little bit. And somebody will step up and they'll go win you one. Like you'll get a 40-point game from Dinwiddie or a guy like what's that center? That guy that makes a lot of threes on Dallas. What's his name? Oh, Maxi Kleber will hit 6 threes in the game. You go, wait, what? Maxi Kleber hit 6 threes? So, and then they got a scrappy guy in Jalen Brunson. I really like him. He's been great since college. a really winning kind of player. He's like Fred Van Vliet West, Jalen Brunson. He's a little bit smaller, but they're the same kind of player. But they don't have enough. Somebody will step up. I don't know who it is. They're gonna step up and they're gonna get a game, especially with Luka being out and not playing. They're gonna get one. They'll have some pride. Somebody. At least I hope so. Okay, let's kick it over to the East. Let me get back to the 76ers Raptors series because this is interesting, I think, on the surface. But when I start to talk about playoffs, you got to have guys. And when I say guys, I mean all-star caliber, superstar caliber guys. And Embiid is one of those guys. He's just so good. It's going to be hard for them to stop them. Now, the thing that people keep throwing out with the Raptors is they got a lot of 6'8" to 6'9" guys, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys that can defend, that can fly all over the place. Okay. When Embiid puts that elbow in your ribs and he hits the drop step, it's going to be difficult for your 6'9", 220-pound guy to do something with that. It's going to be difficult. It's like when Shaq used to hit the drop step, say goodnight, it was over. Or if he hit that spin and put his elbow in your back, like, good luck. That was it. Nothing else you can do. So we'll see. They'll throw a lot of different looks. Nick Nurse is a great coach. They'll throw a lot of stuff at Embiid and a lot of stuff to try to confuse them and make them make Shake Milton and Tobias Harris and those guys step up. But James Harden has to be the second best player in the series. He's got to be great. James Harden has to be the second best player in the series. He can't loaf because when that starts to happen, I think that's when the Raptors will go on their runs and they'll make their noise. When James Harden loafs and he doesn't care about getting back on defense because he never does, poor James Harden, got to play defense. So I think that's where you will see the Raptors make their hay. And then Matisse can't play in Toronto. So that's going to be a thing. He's their best defender. But we'll see. If James Harden plays up to his potential, if Joel Embiid plays up to his potential, this might be over in 5. But we'll see. Can't trust James Harden. He'll get out the first round. But in the second round, I don't trust James Harden. So we'll get there in the second round. So let's go Heat Hawks. Trey will get you a game. He's that explosive. He's that skilled offensively. He commands that much attention. I've never really liked Trae Young. I have to give him his props because he did it in the playoffs last year, even though, I mean, they beat the Knicks. They beat the hapless 76ers, but you got to take your hat off. You got to take your hat off. I take my hat off to you, Trae Young, once again. However, I just don't trust you, and I don't trust your team. So I believe the Heat are going to destroy the Hawks. The Hawks will get a game, but the Heat are so good defensively. They're so good. When you got a guy like Lowry, and you got PJ Tucker, and you got Jimmy, and you got Bam, those guys are so, I mean, those are all defensive caliber players. That could be your first team on defense. Those 4 guys plus whoever you want to put in there. That could be your first team on defense. They're that good defensively. So I don't think that Atlanta has enough. I know that Miami Heat have a chip on their shoulder because nobody's talking about them. Nobody's picking them because they're so deep. But the problem is at the top. At the top, you go, they don't have a superstar. They don't have a Giannis. They don't have an Embiid. They don't have a Jokic. They don't have a Kawhi. They don't have a KD, a LeBron. They don't have a Steph. They don't have that guy. Now you go, Jimmy is very, very good. And he was really good in the playoffs, especially in the finals 2 years ago. But last year you go, well, they got knocked out in the first round. No, they didn't have Jimmy. Oh, yeah, they did. I'm tripping. But you go, I don't know. There's always something about Jimmy. Maybe it's because he can't really shoot. Maybe that's the reason why. But You go offensively, okay, do they have enough? Like Tyler Hero's good. Is he going to show up in the playoffs and do it? Um, Duncan Robinson, like he'll make his shots. They don't just have guys that could just boogie on you off the dribble, that could just go fine one. You go, Jimmy can't really shoot that well, but this really back and forth seesaw thing. I'm doing it right now. The Heat are so good, they're so talented, so they'll be able to dispose of Atlanta, I think, fairly quickly. 5 games. And then in the second round, let's look at our second round. They'll have the 76ers. That is going to be interesting. 10 toes, if you're still in here, what do you think about that one? If we're talking about a 76ers Heat. Yeah, I think so too. James Harden. You just can't. I do not trust James Harden. He's come up small too many times. Can't trust him. And Embiid is going to do his thing, but they are going to crack. I mean, it's Coach Spo, another one of the best coaches in the league. You got Nick Nurse, they're going to throw everything at him. And then you got Coach Spo who runs zone. He'll throw everything out there. So I don't trust James Harden. That's going to be a lot of pressure on him in in a series against a team that plays defense so hard all the time. Now we're talking about playoffs. Playoffs is a different animal. Nobody's relaxing, especially not those guys. Those guys don't relax. Kyle Lowry, there is no relax. Bam, there is no relax. PJ Tucker, there is no relax. Those guys do not nail it in. They just don't. And that's gonna make James Harden upset. And he's gonna check out. He's gonna be disinterested at some point. Quick little reset. This is the Living Numbers podcast live stream. We're doing NBA picks, NBA playoff reactions. And yeah, I'm your host, Tony Rambles. And I think I'll do all my NBA content for the playoffs like this. I like it. So we're going to jump into next our next um, our next round in the East. I would have Bucks, Celtics. Now, 10 toes, before you came on, and for anyone who is just watching this later, 10 toes is in the live stream here. And we're just going back and forth. So I got the Celtics in 7 games because I trust their role players more than I trust the Nets. So I'd have them against the Bucks. Now this series is hard. It's really hard to pick this series because Giannis is showing and has shown based on 2 MVPs in the championship, he is not to be trifled with. He is very, very good. And at times he looks just completely unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. So I trust Giannis because he's done it. Got to give him his props. And man, now if Boston had Robert Williams, that would give them a much better chance. But Horford and Tice and Grant Williams, there's just not enough. There's not enough beef there. There's not enough. You're gonna have to go through me. You're gonna have to go over me in order for you to work. In order for this to work. So it's really hard for me to pick the Bucks. I mean, to pick the Celtics, even though I want to, because I believe Jason Tatum is going to make that jump this year. I believe he's knocking on the door. I was talking to my friend about this earlier. He is knocking on the door that Giannis was knocking on last year. Maybe even not as hard because Giannis had 2 MVPs already, but he's knocking on that same door and saying, "Hey, LeBron, Kawhi, Steph, Jokic, Embiid, Kawhi, KD. Hey guys, I'm one of those guys too." But is this the year that Giannis Now, I don't want to go just chalk and go all number one seeds. And Giannis, they're not even number one seed, but I think they're the sexy pick. Nobody's picking the Heat. I'm going to go Giannis. I think that he is mad enough still to take that in 7 games. But man, oh man, I would not be surprised if Boston found a way, if they found a way to take that series. Yeah. Yep. Same 10. They don't have enough beef inside. I so want to pick the Celtics because I love Jason Tatum. I love what he's doing. I love Jaylen Brown. I love those guys as a tandem, as a duo. This is like PG Kawhi East. When they got together, like I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and they went on that run into the conference finals, and they played against LeBron. I said, this is Kawhi PG East. They're both that good on both sides of the ball. Now, obviously, Tatum is a better offensive player, so he's going to be killing it. But they're both that good to where you go, I mean, you got these 2 big wings that could do it all. Good luck. But, like you said, 6'10" monster, who's strong, who's long, is nothing that you can do. Nothing that you can do. So, yep, consistently play well. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will consistently play well because they're that good. But I don't think that the team will be big enough. I just don't. And so I'm going to take Giannis in the Bucks. And I've done this entire thing. I haven't mentioned Chris Middleton. I haven't mentioned Drew Holiday. Those guys are still really good too. Brook Lopez. So now if Robert Williams comes back, even if he comes back, it's still gonna be too soon, to just jump into playoff basketball like that. It doesn't work like that. So I think that I think that Giannis and the Bucks are going to take that series in 7 games, and it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out series. Man, that's what we're talking about. So, quick little reset here. We're in the 2nd round of the NBA playoffs. This is your host, Tony Rambles of the Living Numbers Podcast. I'm making my picks. Really quickly, I'll do a recap of my first round. I've got the Grizzlies winning in 7 against the Timberwolves. I've got the Warriors winning in 6 against the Nuggets. Jokic gets them 2 games somehow. I've got the Jazz 5 games over Dallas. Now, if Luka was there, that would be a totally different series. I would pick the Mavericks 100%. I got the Suns in 5 games over the Pelicans because I think that team is just too good. But CJ is a gamer, and so is Brandon Ingram, and they'll get you a game. I've got the Heat easily over the Hawks in 5 games. Trae Young is so talented offensively. He'll get you a game, but I think that's about it. I got the 76ers with Joel Embiid carrying James Harden across the finish line, at least in the first round. And they're going to beat the Raptors in 6 games. I think they'll have a little trouble. I think Harden will lay a dud at some point. I've got the Celtics over the Nets in a knockdown drag-out series. 7 games. And then I've got the Bucks beating the Bulls. I don't even think I talked about that because that's going to be a sweep. That's not even worth talking about. Bucks are going to destroy the Bulls in the first series, and it's not even going to be close. Giannis won't even allow it. So I've got the Bucks over the Celtics in the 2nd round in a 7-game series. So entertaining. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart are going to give the Bucks everything that they can handle. And I won't be surprised if the Celtics win that series. As much as I want to pick them, I just can't pick them over Giannis. Now, let's stay in the East. We'd have the 76ers over in the Heat. And I think that the Heat, I just don't trust James Harden to get past a very rough and tough team like the Heat, who have so many great defenders who don't quit, who will run on you, who will get in your jersey. I think the Heat take that. Now, this is how much respect I have for Joel Embiid. I am going to take the Heat, but I'm going to take them in 7 games. I'm going to take them in 7 games, and I say Joel has a monster of a series. Tyrese Maxey has a monster of a series because people don't know. Like, Tyrese Maxey was a dog at Kentucky. He was a dog at Kentucky. He was very good. Now, of course, they didn't win the championship, and he was a freshman and blah, blah, blah. But Tyrese Maxey was very good on the team, and he was the leader. He was the guy. So people will see more of that, even more in missed playoffs from him. And so I think that the Heat are going to beat them, but it's going to be a 7-game series. And Joel Embiid is going to show that he either got the MVP because he deserved it, or he should have won the MVP if he doesn't get it. Okay, let's go over to the West. My second round in the West, I've got the Suns I got the Suns and I have Utah. Since Luka's not playing, that's very sad. That hurts my heart. Luka's not playing, but I've got the Suns beating Utah in. I think Donovan is good enough to get you a game. We've seen that already. He can go for 50 and just flat out make sure that you get at least one game. But I think it's the end of the line for that team. Rudy Gobert he's good for what he does, but it's so weird to have a guy like Rudy Gobert who has these defensive player of the year awards. He has these all defense awards. He's so disrespected though. Like, Rudy Gobert is a good player in this league. However, this is the problem. You can't be 7'2" and not be able to score. You have to have a jump, bro. When you gonna get a jump hook? If Rudy Gobert had a jump hook, he should be able to average at least 22 points a game. And now that opens up the floor for the rest of your team. That opens up the floor for Donovan Mitchell a little bit more, because now if I'm 7'2" and I put my arm up, I'm dang near at the rim. Get a jump hook. But he doesn't have that. So that's always going to limit his potential in how much respect he gets. Because really, I know I'm a huge defensive guy. I'm huge on defense, but somebody got to score the basketball. And if Donovan Mitchell is the only guy that's going to score the basketball, guess what? It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough when you go against a team like Phoenix that is so deep. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that, but it's so true because there are no holes on the Phoenix Suns roster. And you got to have 2 guys, guys, to win the playoffs. Or you got to have a supernova like Giannis and have great players around him. Maybe not superstars, but semi-all-star or all-star. You got all-star caliber. Because he's got Jrue Holiday, who's an all-star. He's got Chris Middleton, who's an all-star. And all good role players. That's the only way you can win with one superstar. That's why the ceiling is capped for a job. That's why the ceiling is also capped for a team like Utah. They got one superstar, Donovan Mitchell. I can't call him a superstar yet. But they got a real strong star in Donovan Mitchell, but you got to have a running mate. And if you don't, you got to have very high-level role players. And I don't think they have that anymore. Especially with Joe Ingles and Bogey gone. Like, those are very important guys on that team. They don't have it. See? So if you're listening on Wisdom, I've got the live stream going on YouTube as well on the Living Numbers podcast channel. And you can actually chat there if you want to interact. So I got 10 toes. He's saying, very true. If Rudy had a hook or a way to put the ball in the basket, easy 15 and 10. But unfortunately, he doesn't. So I agree. He said Suns in 5. Now, Suns in 5. Suns in 5. If they have that team from last year, I respect Utah a little bit more, and I give them another game, 6, maybe even 7. But that is not the same team. They're not as good. You can't lose Joe Ingles and Bogdan Bogdanovic and think you're as good as you were when you had them. That's just not how things work. So again, I'll say Phoenix Suns, too deep, too solid everywhere. No holes. Who you going at? There is nobody. Let me save you the time. So I got Phoenix winning that series in 5 games against the Jazz. Now, this series here, the Grizzlies against the Warriors. Wow. If we could get the Grizzlies against the Warriors, we should thank God. We should all just thank God for a series where you can get Steph freaking Curry and Ja Morant, 2 of the most electrifying figures in sports entertainment. That's a great reference for anybody who used to watch wrestling or still watches wrestling out there. But you got Ja Morant, you got Steph Curry. You go, oh crap! Like this is going to be good. We might have somebody that will dunk over at multiple people at one time. And then you got Steph Curry who could go off for 9 threes in a quarter and drop 50 points. Very, very, very interesting here. If we could get the Grizzlies and the Warriors in round 2. That's what I'm really hoping for. So in that game, I think the experience here is going to catch up to the Grizzlies. The experience is going to catch up to the Grizzlies at that point. And now you're going to see where guys like Iguodala come into play. You're going to see it to where guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, of course, those guys are going to come into play. The guys who have been through the wars, who have been there. And I don't think the Grizzlies will be able to get over the Warriors hump. You know how in those third quarters when the Warriors come out swinging and it's really not a whole lot that most teams can do? And then you got to go, dang, we got little Steph Curry Jr. and Jordan Poole. This guy is electric. And then, hey, hopefully, I think this will happen. You got a guy in Kuminga who is a super athlete. At times, he'll get the ball on the pass and the catch. He'll take 2 dribbles and he'll be at the rim over your head. And there's not going to be much that you can do about it. So I think he'll start to get some run maybe in the second round where you have a very athletic, fast team like the Grizzlies who like to get up and like to run. But man, yeah, 10. Warriors in 7 is what I'll say. And I think Ja Morant is knocking on the same door that Jason Tatum is knocking on. Like, hey, Steph, I'm here too. I'm a superstar. I'm ready to be counted as one of those guys that can carry my team to the actual pinnacle, to the top. Now, do I think he can? Let me share this with you. I think that you have to have a bigger player. Now, that doesn't have to be a center. That has to be a large wing player, like a Clay, like a PG, like a Giannis or LeBron, to be able to take some pressure off of you. Because being that small, now Ja Morant is a super athlete, but the dude, he's thin. You're going to take a beating, especially with how he plays. He's going to take a beating, and that's okay. But you got to have a second guy that's bigger. That's why I never believed that Dame and CJ could do it, because they're both small guys. You got to have a guy. That's why all the best players in the league are big wings, or at this point, centers. Think about it. LeBron, Kawhi, KD, Giannis. PG, I like him, but he's not one of the best players in the league. I'm missing. Or then you go Embiid, Jokic, like the best players in the league. None of them are small except for Steph Curry. But even Steph, he's got a Draymond, he's got a Klay Thompson, he's got those bigger guys that can relieve some of that pressure off of you. Steph never has to guard the best player. That's why. So, I mean, even if you want to throw in a guy like Chris Paul, is one of my favorite players ever. He's probably my favorite point guard after Isaiah Lord Thomas of the Detroit Pistons. Shout out to Detroit. Detroit in the house. But Chris Paul, he could never be the number one guy unless he has somebody next to him that's big. So, where was I going? Oh, yeah, Ja Morant. But he's super exciting. He's very talented. His shot's going to continue to get better. But I got the Warriors in 7 games. And I think they're going to have to go and get another guy to get next to him. I don't think Jaren Jackson is going to be that player. I think he's going to be very good. I think he's going to hold it down on the defensive end. He's not going to be that second banana to Ja Morant. They got to get another guy in there. Now, can you get a guy like Bradley Beal over there in the offseason? Who knows? Can you get a guy like, is Desmond Bane going to grow into that guy? I don't know. I don't see that, but even him, he's not huge as far as height's concerned. He's stacked. Dude's jacked. But we'll see. I got Warriors knockdown drag out series again in 7 games against the Grizzlies in the second round. I've got the Suns again over the Jazz in 5 games because Luka's not playing. That's so sad. I love Luka Doncic. He is going to be one of those guys that's like, he's one of the best players in the league, no question. Now, I've got somebody on the Wisdom app here. I'm going to let this person in. And we're going to see what they think. What's going on, Jabari? Let's see if we can hear him. 3, 2, 1, the countdown is happening. So let me reset here. I'm on live.
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Jabari? Mr. Morris, welcome in. I'm live streaming on YouTube, the Living Numbers podcast. Go ahead. What you got for us?
Well, the playoffs is going to be interesting this year. If you look at it, the Suns have the best record, obviously.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I do favor them to come out the West. I really don't see any other team coming out the West but I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Unless Chris Paul is injured like a whole series.
That
if you miss a game or two, I don't think
if Chris Paul misses an entire series, that is going to ruin it for everyone. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but he does have a history of injuries in the playoffs. So we'll see. Continue.
After the first round, he tends to get hurt somewhere between the end of the first round and the beginning of the second round.
True.
So really, let me pull the playoff bracket in front of me so I can at least see it. That way, it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, go for it.
But the injuries are already starting to play a role in the playoffs, as we see already.
Yep. Man, I'm so mad that Luka is not playing. Because in the playoffs, it's all about getting to your spot. No matter how big or fast you are, can you get to your spot and can you get your shot off? And there's not a lot of guys that can do that better than Luka Doncic. So
it helps when you're 6'7" and got a handle, right?
And huge. Luka's got to be like 230, 240. He's massive.
Yeah. The only problem with Luka, like there is with a lot of big scores, is he's a negative defender by a long shot, just like Trae Young. Which is the reason why the Heat are going to dispatch with the Hawks real quick over here on the East side.
Yep, 5 games against the Hawks. I think Trae will get you a game. He's so talented offensively. He'll get you 1 game for sure. And they've got guys over there. But the thing about Luka that's a little bit different that I would say is he's got size. So sometimes you could just take that. You could take that size and put it on somebody, and you'll be fine. And you can get guys like Dorian Finney-Smith. You could get Jalen Brunson. You could get Tim Hart. You could get those other guys to really defend on the perimeter. Now they're gonna hunt Luka. You gotta watch out. They're gonna hunt him, but we're gonna see.
Hey, they gonna hunt them like those guys in Gergenton was hunting those deer out there.
Yep, they're gonna go after him. They're gonna go after him. So let's look at.
It's hard being a superstar and you get hunted like that. Like,
man,
I just hope that they get right players around him. But Luka has all the makings of a guy who, while he's gonna be great, he might not be able to win a championship with him being the best player.
Ooh, man, I don't know. I really like how he can control the game. He can he can control the game.
I'm gonna say how many players have been the best player on their team and not been on the championship winning team and not been a two-way player?
I mean, there's not really many examples out there.
Yeah, if you're the best player on your team, you're at least a two-way player, and B, usually a plus defender.
Yeah.
And C, usually close to all NBA defender.
Yep.
If you look at the best players on the championship teams.
Yeah, the closest you have is like Steph in 2015. But after that, you got the LeBron teams, and that's when he was still playing defense. And you got Giannis, right? You got because the best players in the league are usually those bigger two-way wings. They're all, if you go back and look, whoever's the best players are those guys or centers, huge people, and those guys end up winning championships. You're right about that. You're right about that.
You usually have. I can't think of other than Steph Curry. That's the only time that I've seen a championship won with the best player being the point guard.
Yep. But then
shows you just the greatness of Steph Curry.
Yes, but what they did was they put guys around Steph Curry that could defend, and Steph Curry.
And the fact that Steph Curry is an okay defender, not a minus defender.
Exactly. He's not a bum defender like Trae Young. Now, Trae Young it's going to be hopeless. It's going to be hopeless for Trae.
For Trae Young, it's literally go. Hey, I got a bottle of some Tom's barbecue sauce here.
Yep.
You just pour it right over his head and anoint him. Because Charles Barkley would say he barbecue chicken.
It's over. It's over. All right, so I'm going to jump to, man, Mr. Morris, good. Thank you for coming in and jumping on here on the Wisdom app for my people who are watching on YouTube. I got Mr. Morris here on the Wisdom app where I'm live streaming this as well. Of course, it'll go up on the podcast on Spotify, Apple as well. So definitely was awesome. And definitely keep tuning in. We're going to jump to our next series. Thank you, Mr. Morris, for coming on. You the man. And one other point guard that would do it was Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons, baby. He was one of those guys that won a championship as the best player on his team. That was miniature, small. So Heat would beat the 76ers in the second round. And I think that brings us to Heat and let's see, the Bucks. Oh my gosh. Heat Bucks 3 years in a row. Interesting. Heat Bucks 3 years in a row. And I think that Giannis is just so good for all of the traits I mentioned already. He's so good defensively. He's so good offensively. He's huge. It's just going to be tough sledding. Now, they went and picked up PJ Tucker from Milwaukee this year. And that's going to be huge for them. So can the Bucks get by both the Heat and the Celtics? Heat and Celtics, two of the best defensive teams in the league. Probably the two best defensive teams in the league. Man, I'm over here sweating trying to figure this out. I think that Giannis is too good, and maybe this is kind of going with the popular picks here. Giannis is too good to lose right now. And I don't think Miami has enough offense. I really think the only team that could beat the Bucks is the Boston Celtics. I don't really think any of those other teams have enough on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively, to beat Giannis and the Bucks with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and Brook and all of those guys. Now, some people might say, well, if you look at the Bucks offense, it ain't that great either. And those people will be totally right. I cannot dispute that. But you know what they have? Tony Stark said it best. We have a Hulk. And so Milwaukee can go, we've got a Giannis, and you don't. And most teams have nobody that can deal with him at all. We've seen him dispatch Miami last year. So you might have Bam, and he's very good. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough. So I've got... Oh, wait. Before we come out the East, we got the Bucks. I would have the Suns and the Warriors in the West. That's chalk all the way. Now, the hard part about this series is I keep mentioning you got to have those guys. And the Phoenix Suns have two of them. They've got Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Those are guys. Now, I don't think that with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, Klay Thompson's not all the way back to being Klay Thompson. I don't think that they are going to have enough to knock off Phoenix, because again, Phoenix has no holes. And I think DeAndre Ayton is going to be the most important player in that series, because Ayton is huge and he's super athletic, and he is going to be a problem for the Warriors. He's going to be a huge problem for the Warriors, literally. And that's why during the season, I'm like, okay, if they can get Wiseman back and he can be serviceable, he can be athletic and big and long, then I think that when playoffs come around and they really need him, he's going to make a huge difference. But they didn't get him back. That didn't happen. And they didn't go and get a center. They didn't go and get a big guy and say, we're going to match fire with fire. They're basically saying, we're the Warriors. We play Warriors basketball. And we're not going to change because you have DeAndre Ayton. We're going to do what we do. And you know why James Wiseman is not playing? And they're bringing him along slowly because he doesn't know how to play Warriors basketball. So this is one of the few teams where the system has just as much value as the players. One of the few teams that can say that, because we've seen what the system can do. Remember last year when they tried to kind of just put Wiseman in there and play, and they had a Kelly Oubre? It was like hit or miss, because those guys didn't know how to play Warriors basketball. And Steph wasn't there. Klay wasn't there. It was just Draymond on his lonesome. Man. He can't do Warriors basketball without those other guys. And so they go, you know what? We're going to get some people who can play Warriors basketball. So they go out. They go get a guy like Otto Porter. And they draft Kuminga. And they're bringing him along and showing him how to play Warriors basketball. They go get Gary Payton Jr. And they show him how to play Warriors basketball. And Moody and those guys. And you go, wait a second. Those guys are all pretty young. This is setting the Warriors up for the future. But I think that the right now is in Phoenix. The right now is in Phoenix. And I believe that in the 7-game series where Steph Curry shows up, but he has a difficult time doing it on his own because Klay is not ready to come back and be Klay, like playoff Klay Thompson. He's not quite there yet. if this was next year, I might even pick the Warriors with those guys having another year and Kuminga having another year. Like, is Jordan Poole going to step up and be that guy against the Suns? It's going to be hard. And I like Jordan Poole, University of Michigan graduate. Not graduate, but he played there. I like what they have, but I think, again, Phoenix has no holes, and they got two superstars. And Devin Booker, Chris Paul. They got a guy, Mikal Bridges, who's long and athletic, and he can do some things, and he's great on defense. They've got Ayton, who should be able to average 22 to 25 points against the Warriors. If he does that, he's going to grab 12 to 14 rebounds. If he does, the Warriors not going to win that series. They might go out in 6 if Ayton plays like that. But I'll say 7 games because that's who they are. So, that brings us to my finals matchup here with Phoenix. And I also have Milwaukee. So, I'm going to bring a C-Fin off Wisdom. And I'm going to give him a little bit of time to talk here. I'm going to start the countdown. 3, 2, 1, here we go. What's up, Asif?
How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? I'm here live streaming on YouTube. Got the Living Numbers podcast going. I'm talking NBA. I'm sure that's why you're here. A lot of fun. What you got for us?
Yeah, man. You know, I'm from South Florida, bro. I got Heat versus.
Ooh. Okay. You say you got Heat. You got Heat and who in the Eastern Conference?
What you say? Oh, you want the Eastern Conference matchup?
Yeah. Who you got?
Well, that shit is weird right now, bro. Because Boston's playing the Nets. That shit is crazy. You saw that game? That was nuts.
Outstanding.
Oh, that was unreal, bro. Unreal. Kyrie came through in a major way. KD was fucking up big time, bro.
Hey, but that shows you, again, like, you can't trust, like, the rest of what the Nets have. Like, they're good. Like, you have two nuclear options in KD and Kyrie. Those guys can get you 50 or 60 points. But what you going to get from Bruce Brown? Seth Curry is good, but, how much can you get from him? How much can you lean on? I mean, who's playing the 5? I mean, you got Nick Claxton, but, okay, that's cool. But what am I getting from those other guys? And I trust Boston's role players, more than I trust the other guys on the Nets. So, what you think? Who you got the Heat going against in the Eastern Conference? You got to make a pick, man.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Milwaukee in the Heat, bro.
It's right. It's kind of hard. Go ahead.
I got Milwaukee versus the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I got Phoenix versus. Bro, that shit is crazy right now.
Yeah.
That shit is tough, bro. That shit is tough.
It's hard to pick against the experience of Golden State, but I could see why somebody would want to pick the Grizzlies. Or that's really it. It's really those 3 teams. You're not picking anybody else out of the West, I don't think.
Nah, bro. Like, it could be Golden State, or it could be. I don't know, bro. I don't think Luka's ready for all that there, bro.
But he's injured. If Luka wasn't injured, we would have a case. I love Luka's game. He can control it. He can control the game like a LeBron, like those other big-time players. And he makes the best decisions. He can make shots. I love Luka, but he's not playing.
But, I mean, the guy is super inefficient, bro. He has the ball in his hands all the time. He plays the same system that LeBron James plays, which is just like LeBron James, bro.
But 4 championships.
Get the fuck out of here. 4 fake ass rings, bro. That nigga just fucking cherry picked, team opted, bitch made all that bullshit, bro. It's just real balled up. They use all this team's picks and all this team's resources, and then once I'm done with them, I'm gonna leave them in fucking shambles and dip out. And then once I'm done with them, I'm gonna dip out again. Nah, bro, we don't play like that, bro. We ride with our squad until the end. That's it.
Hey.
That's it. That's if you want to dip, go ahead and dip. Once you get there, you got to stay there, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to drive. You get a choice, right? Once your little rookie contract is over, you got a choice. You going to re-sign? You re-sign. You got the big money. And then he dipped. Now, once he dipped and he come to Miami without Pat Riley, he wanted the keys from Pat Riley. He wanted his boys in the plane. He wanted this, that, and the next. Nah, bro. That shit ain't how it rolls, bro. Pat Riley's the boss, dog. Nick Harrison's the boss. That's how that shit goes. LeBron trying to flex too hard over there. And then he dipped on Cleveland. No, I don't respect that, bro. It's a cheap ring, bro. And he had the better squad so many times and he just lost, bro. Just lost, bro. Yeah. Mavericks, Spurs. Like, come on, bro. How you losing to the Spurs, bro? You telling me Jordan on that Heat team with Wade, Bosh, Ray Allen, and the boys is going to lose to Tim Duncan, Monmouth,
what was
Tony Parker? Come on, dog.
But what was Wade at that time? Wade was falling apart at that time.
Ah, come on, bro. Look at his averages, bro.
But you watched the games, though.
Yeah, I watched the games, but he gave him enough, though. He gave him more than enough.
Okay.
I'm telling you, bro. Look, this is LeBron.
I mean, it was a buzzsaw. It was a buzzsaw, you know. Sometimes a team is clicking on all cylinders. Ain't really a whole lot you can do. I mean, if they're gonna shoot like that, I mean, what can you do if a team shoots like that?
But were they not wide open threes?
LeBron can't guard everybody.
LeBron ain't guard nobody.
In his Heat days, he was.
Like a little bit, no. It's certain possession shit, but.
I mean, he got you too. There's no excuse for the Dallas one. No, that was just a complete meltdown. Anybody who tells you different, they're a homer. But I think at least a case can be made because he won the 2 in a row, and then they lost to the Spurs, where they had. Yeah, I mean the case could be made like he should have won that one, but. I mean, the rest. I mean, those Warriors teams were stupid. Those Warriors teams were crazy.
The Warriors, I can give them a slide on the.
But the Spurs one, no pass.
What?
No pass on the Spurs.
No pass on the Spurs. Hell no, bro. You got a fully loaded squad, bro. Nah, bro. Not gonna happen, bro.
Okay.
You go watch the finals with Jordan, bro. Look at the percentage of the team's points he had, bro. He locked the fuck out of them motherfuckers on defense. They just locked the shit down, and they just fucking scored 70, 80 points, and that was enough, bro. And Jordan would have 40 of them, 35 of them, 38. 40%. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, that's what you gotta do. You're gonna be claiming the best of all time. You know what I'm saying? You can't claim the best of all time and you bitch up every time it's time to show it and prove it, right?
If you claim to be the best, you gotta make it happen.
You gotta deliver when it's time, bro. You can't just fully load up the squad, super team this, super team that. Three. Come on, bro. No, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 7, not 8, not 9. These motherfuckers got 2.
That was a mistake.
That was bullshit, bro. Get to that shit, dog. How you gonna dip like that if you made some crazy statements like that, bro?
Yeah.
Pat Riley would have reloaded you. They were all completely depleted, bro. They lost LeBron. They lost all the other players because of old age. They lost Chris Bosh because of blood clots.
Yeah.
That's over here. Look how Pat Riley built that shit right back up real quick. Boom.
Well, appreciate it, Asif, man. I thank you for coming on. When I have sports on, you definitely got to hop on. We can talk more sports anytime. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, for sure. You want me to dip?
Yep.
What's that, brother?
Yeah. I'm gonna keep going. I'm streaming over here on YouTube as well, also for my pod. So.
Oh, you got me in the stream?
Yeah, man. They can hear you. Boom. There goes the Asif. All right, man. I'll see you around.
Yeah, I don't know why my phone.
So, very interesting. Asif's like, LeBron's the man. He should have won all his championships. There's a case to be made that he should have won the second Spurs one as well. If you're the best player, I think at that point his team was kind of busting at the seams, falling apart a little bit. I think if he stays, Miami definitely rebuilds around him and they continue to put pieces together. But at that point, Wade was falling apart. He was carrying Wade at that point. And then you look at, Bosh was still doing his thing, but they relegated him to kind of a defensive player and a shooter. But now is not the time. We're going to get back to the playoffs. I am now in the finals where I have Phoenix, and I've got Milwaukee. We've come to the end of our run here. So I've been saying this entire time that Milwaukee has a Giannis, and he's awesome, and it's very, very hard to stop a guy with his skill set, his athletic ability, and his just his fire, his will to get to wherever he wants to on the court. It's very difficult to stop that. Now, the Phoenix Suns, I've been saying this the entire time as well, they have no holes on their roster. They have 0 holes. They have a bench. They've got 2 great stars that can carry the load in Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They've got a great big guy in the middle that could punish switches, that could punish small. So if you want to play small ball, good luck. Go for it. They got Cam Payne and Cam Johnson coming off the bench. Those guys are no joke. They can knock down shots. They also can defend enough. They've got Jay Crowder, who's a defender and a shooter. They've got Saric, who can shoot, who can stretch you a little bit there. So they've got a ton of stuff that they're going to. I didn't even mention Mikal Bridges. They got a ton of stuff that they're going to be able to throw at the Bucks. And I think, and I hope, because he's one of my favorite players ever, I think that the Phoenix Suns finally get it done and Chris Paul gets his championship. I've got the Phoenix Suns in 7 games. And it's going to be a tough 7 games. Now, would I be surprised if the Bucks and Giannis win another one? Absolutely not. Because they're that good. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and Giannis and those guys over there are that good. Brook Lopez, they're that good. But I think that this is the time where Chris Paul stays healthy and Devin Booker plays even bigger than he has already, and they get it done. Cam Johnson's going to hit some shots. They even got a guy like, what's that big dude? Bismack Biyombo and JaVale McGee. They got those 2 guys specifically for Giannis and the Bucks. Specifically for them. I remember when Shaq was playing, people would just go and get big guys just to guard Shaq and foul him 6 times. Just to make it difficult. So I got Phoenix. They kind of remind me of that team. Remember that Spurs team that we were talking about earlier that lost and they were like upset the entire offseason. And then next year they come back and they just flat out destroy the Heat in the finals. And they hit a ton of threes and everybody plays great. And LeBron is just kind of sitting there like, what the heck? What can I do? D-Wade, Chris Bosh, what can we do? And those guys are just draining shots all over the place. I think that's the kind of revenge tour, and I'm putting air quotes in there. I think that's the kind of revenge tour that the Phoenix Suns are on now. So, just to do a reset here, how did we get here? Let's go to our bracket. I've got the Grizzlies beating Timberwolves in a 7-game, wonderful, amazing, entertaining series. I've got the Warriors beating the Nuggets in 6 because I respect Jokic enough. He's going to get them a game, and then those other guys will step up, and they'll get another game, probably at home. Got the Warriors in 6, and then I've got the Jazz in 5 because Luka is not playing. If Luka was playing, I honestly would take the Mavericks in this series. And then I got the Suns over the Pelicans in 5 because I think CJ and Brandon Ingram will get you a game. I've got the Celtics over the Nets in a 7-game, very fun, wild series where you got Tatum rising above the fray to say, I'm here. I've got the Bulls sweeping the Bucks. I'm sorry. I got the Bulls being swept by the Bucks because they just don't have enough. I've got the 76ers beating the Raptors in 6 because I think James Harden is not going to show up all the time, but Embiid is that great. He'll be able to show up and carry that team because he's awesome. I've got the Heat beating the Hawks in 5 because I don't trust Trae Young and I don't trust the Hawks. But I think Trae Young is talented and skilled enough to get you at least one game. In the second round, I've got the Heat over the 76ers in 7 games because I think the Heat are so stacked defensively. And it's not like the 76ers are so great on offense that they're going to make the Heat pay for not having a great offense. I think the Heat will find enough offense and the defense is going to be so good. James Harden's going to be frustrated and they're going to lose. But I think Embiid is an MVP caliber player. He's shown that, and I think that will be a 7-game series out of respect for Embiid. I want to say 6, though. Bucks are going to beat the Celtics in the 7-game knockdown dragout series. Jason Tatum is going to show why he is one of the best players in the league, but they don't have a Giannis. Have anybody in the middle that can really give him a hard time. I really want to pick the Celtics, but I can't. And then I've got the Bucks over the Heat because, again, I think Giannis will be able to punish them, and I think that their defense is very good, especially in the playoffs as well. And the Heat they won't have enough offense against the Bucks. I think Giannis has kind of solved the Miami Heat riddle. So I've got the Bucks again in another 7-game entertaining. That series actually might be a rock fight at times where you have some games in like the 90s because both of them are so good defensively. So I got the Bucks coming out the East in a couple of 7-game barn burners after a very easy first round. So over in the West, in my second round, I've got the Suns knocking off the Jazz in 5 games because I don't think they have enough. And Rudy Gobert refuses to get a jump hook. I have the Warriors beating the Grizzlies in a 6-game series where the experience is going to just be too much for those guys to overcome. But Ja Morant, he fights hard. He carries his team. But they won't have enough talent-wise and experience-wise. No, I'll say experience-wise. I think that the Warriors will just overwhelm them. And so now I have the Suns beating the Warriors because they'll have too much size and a little bit too much talent over the Warriors because the Warriors got a lot of young guys. They got guys that may be a little bit older too. Either got really young guys or really old guys. And I think that the Suns just have no holes. And DeAndre Ayton's going to have a 25-12 series. And it's going to be very, very difficult for the Golden State Warriors to handle that. But it's going to be great. I've got the Suns going to the NBA Finals back-to-back, 7 games. And I've got the Bucks visiting them there as well. And so now, for my finals pick, I've got Phoenix. Again, too much talent. The revenge tour. Chris Paul gets his ring finally. Devin Booker rises and shines next to Chris Paul and shows everybody that he is here to stay and he is a very, very good player. I'm still not putting him in that next echelon of player, that Kawhi and those guys up there, KD and Giannis and Jokic. And Devin Booker's not that. But I think he's very, very good. He's in that next tier down, like with the Bradley Beals, with guys like Paul George. Those guys are in that next tier. I think Ja Morant is in that tier. Jason Tatum is in that tier as well. I think that Ja and those guys, they're not ready yet. We need to keep them in the oven. Need to keep them on simmer for just a little bit longer. But Devin Booker, Chris Paul. They get it done. And Giannis goes down in his second trip to the finals. Now, let me be the first one to say, if Giannis wins this again, I would not be surprised. He's so great. He's so hard to deal with. So, those are all of my NBA playoff picks. This is your host, Tony Rambles of the Living Numbers podcast. Of course, I am live streaming right now on YouTube. You can find me on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify, where I talk about all kinds of stuff, not just sports, but regular people with interesting stories. And I use numbers to transition from one topic to the next. That's all I'm doing. So this is me signing off. Thank you guys for listening. Out there on Wisdom, I see you. Thank you guys for watching out there on YouTube, whether you're watching now or at a later time. Thank you guys for coming in and sharing this time with me. This is your host, Tony Rambo, signing off, and I will see you all in the next ramble. Peace out.